Shit is about to go down. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is gonna be on the Anastasia Subculture Palette. Ever since this freaking palette launched, I've heard everybody going crazy about it. Some people, they love it, but let me be honest, most people, they hate it. When I saw all of the reviews and so on, I was just like, I don't care what the price is, I don't care how long it's gonna take me to get it. I need to get it, I need to try it, and I need to test it out for you guys and tell you the honest truth. Is it really as good or as bad as some people says that it is? I have tried to stay away from most of the reviews, however I couldn't help myself to watch Jeffrey's, and he was just all about not liking this palette. And then I also saw, I think it was Stephanie Nicole, who actually kind of liked this palette. I'm kind of like in between because I believe in both of them. I need to try it out for myself and I need to tell you guys exactly how you're supposed to use it. Apparently, as I've read and as I've heard, these are supposed to be more like a pressed pigment, so they're a bit more loose in texture and very, very pigmented as well. So I'm really excited. I love me and my pigmented eyeshadows, you know that. So I'm excited to see if I can make this palette work. Work, 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 work. The palette looks like this. It is the same kind of velour texture right here as on the Modern Renaissance palette. Personally, I think that's a bit like so-so. I like the look of it right now because it's totally brand new, but I do know with myself and with all of our makeup enthusiasts that it does tend to get really, really dirty in no time because of the velour thing. So it's beautiful right now. I love it right now, but I know for later on when I've been using it for a while, it does tend to get a bit more dirty than if it's just like plain normal packaging. And I also love the color. I think it's very different. You hardly ever see these kind of greeny colors in a palette, so that is beautiful. And it's called Subculture, as you can see, and it is supposed to be like the sister palette to the Modern Renaissance palette from Anastasia, which is really exciting. And when you open the palette, it looks like this. There's a plastic thing right there to protect the shadows. And then you also get a dual-ended brush right there. The brushes are actually really, really good. I really do like them. And you get a big-ass mirror as well. In this palette, you get 14 different shades, and they ranges from mattes, like really grungy mattes and deep mattes. I love that you get a very deep purpley color right there. But you also do get some really metallic shades as well, like this one, for example, which I love. And you also get this one called Cube up there, which is a really white color, but as you get closer you can see there's kind of like this pearlescent look. And I love that it's a very versatile palette as well. You can go from a very standard everyday makeup look with this one, but you can also do some very out there ones. And as far as I know, all of the shades, they are limited edition. They are totally brand new, but the only one that isn't is the one called Fudge. I really like that they're all brand new shades, or almost all of them, so that makes it a bit more special to get this palette. And just to let you all know, this is a cruelty-free product, and as far as I do know, it is produced in the US as well. But I could keep on talking about this beautiful palette forever and ever and ever. Now let's put it to the test and see if it's Camilla proof, because I'm pretty damn excited. Oh, please be good. I don't want to have wasted my money. Let's do it. Så jag zoomed you in on my beautiful face. Not. So you can see a bit more of what's gonna happen. And first I'm just gonna prime my eyes with the MAC paint pot in the color Soft Ochre. Actually, it could be fun to only prime one eye and see how the other one is compared to that one. That's what we're gonna do. So in that way we're gonna be able to compare and see if the shadows, they work just as well on an unprimed eye as on a primed eye. So first I'm gonna be using the color Dawn right there. It is a matte color and I'm gonna be using it in my crease and slightly up here. And because the palette comes with a dual-ended brush and it comes with a blending brush, I'm gonna be using that one. Oh. Okay, so it is actually really powdery. The brush just picked up so much product. So the shadows, they are definitely a bit more powdery, and you really have to go in with a very light hand. So instead of going like this, going back and forth, just one dab is more than enough. No matter what you've got to say, this is a really nice transition color. And now let's try on the unprimed eye. So the color definitely changes. You can see that over here you can't see it as much, but over here it is a way more like orange based. I'm just giving a tiny bit more over here. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but that is how much fallout I've gotten from the palette. I haven't dusted anything away. As long as you're just being a bit more careful with how you grab the different shadows, then you won't get as much fallout. And to me, it just comes down to being a bit more careful when you pick up the different eyeshadows. The next color I'm gonna go in with is gonna be New Wave, which is kind of like a yellow orangey color, which I think is so stunning. And this is also a matte. And I'm gonna be using the same brush. Very light touch. People have been talking so much about these shadows being so difficult to blend, and I don't really feel that. I actually feel as if they're very, very nice. Whoa, it goes very orange over here. I feel as if the eyeshadows are so much more vibrant on the unprimed eye. It's crazy. I really do hope that you can see the difference, because this on the unprimed eye, the shadows are so much more vibrant. I just see them much more and the color really shows through. Whereas over here, I don't know if it's because it's clinging down to the actual primer or whatever, but it's just not the same with the pigment. It just goes much more vibrant, and I feel as if it's easier to blend as well. It's kind of weird. And I'm using, once again, a very light hand. I'm not pressing at all. And once again, when talking about fallout, I don't see a lot of fallout. I guess that kind of proves my point. It is all about how you treat the eyeshadows. If you're being really rough with them, of course there's gonna be fallout. There isn't more or less fallout in this palette than with any of my other palettes. Now I'm gonna take the denser side of the brush, so this one, which is a bit smaller, and then I'm gonna be using Fudge in my outer corner, like in my outer V. Whoa, it picks up a lot. Then just using the other side and blending a tiny bit. On the unprimed side. Yes, there is a total difference. Like a total difference. It just glides on so much more smoothly over here. It is crazy. I did not expect that at all. It just seems as if these shadows, they just work so much better when they're unprimed. You know, when you don't use a primer. And I don't know why. I've never tried that with any eyeshadows before, actually. I just don't feel as if I have to work as much with this side at all. Just look how nice it blends. And just because we're having fun. I'm also going to be using Destiny right there, also a matte shade. It's a kind of like a khaki green color, which I think is so pretty. And I'm going to be using Zoeva's Luxe Define Crease Brush, just to show that's how much product it picks up. And once again, applying it in my crease and in my outer V. So this color to me is kind of like a Nay experience when it gets on. You don't really get that khaki green color, it just looks black right now. If you get really up close, can you see how messy it looks over here compared to over there? I'm still not in love with this shade. It looks much more like a gray, blackish shade when it gets on, but once again, it still blends much more nicely over here than over there. This one is like crap. I just feel like starting all over again. But that one over there is amazing. But now let's move on to the metallics, because I've been eyeing out Adorn right there ever since I opened this palette, and it's so freaking stunning! So we're gonna be using Adorn on my eyelids. Finger or a brush? I think I'm gonna be using my fingers, and maybe if I don't like the way that it applies, I'm gonna be using a brush. And we're using Adorn. Oh, that is pretty! And because my nails are that long, I can't get in my inner corner, so I'm gonna be using a flat brush and just picking up a tiny bit. And then applying it in there. And I actually feel as if the shadow is just as pigmented with a brush as with your fingers, so it really depends on what you like to do. And right now I hate myself for applying that horrible, ugly ass green color. Ah, yeah, so Camilla. Because I really don't like the green, I'm just taking a fluffy blending brush, taking New Wave a tiny bit, and then applying it in my crease. We need to get that horrible, horrible green shade away because I don't like it at all. Just blending the edges with a fresh, clean brush. With the metallic shade, I don't have any fallout, which is a good thing. So yeah, the metallics, they're really, really good. And then once again, just taking New Wave in the crease. And I think because I'm in love with the color called Electric, I'm gonna be using that in my inner corner, mixing it with Cube as well. And for that, I'm gonna be using my Bobbi Brown Smoky Eyeliner brush, which is kind of like a little fluffy thing, amazing for the inner corners. Mixing Electric and Cube, and that's how it looks. Where is the pigment? Experiment, we're gonna be trying to weten the brush just to see if it's gonna pick up a bit more pigment. A little so-so. Let's try over here on the unprimed side. And now the brush is a tiny bit wet. Same story. You really have to build it up. So if you want that really intense inner corner highlight like I wanted, damn girl, it's gonna take your time. As you can see, it's definitely there, but when you just see me like this, it is not an intense highlight that you get from that. I'm just gonna take Electric and the same brush right in the middle of my eye just to see if we can highlight in there a tiny bit. Still looks better over there, but I think I'm gonna go back with Edge right there, which is a matte yellow color, and then just blending in my crease. I really want that warm tone thing to shine through, even though this palette is not totally warm toned. But I find that the Modern Renaissance palette, that was all about these warm rosy shades. This one is definitely a bit more neutral to cooler tones, but I do really like that because there's a nice variety. One thing that I heard Jeffrey saying a lot is that he feels as if the shades are kind of like sitting in your crease, and I do agree. Once they've been on for a little while, they do settle. It does happen a tiny bit, but not as badly. Far underneath my eyes, I think that I'm gonna be using a mixture of Roxy and All Star, and maybe also New Wave. All of them, they are mattes as well. And Roxy was the shade where people were going crazy with the fallout. Let's just have a look. No fallout. Just don't push that hard. As you can see, it picks up a lot of product, but just don't go like this in the palette. And I'm using MAC's pencil brush right now, FYI. Then using Heat Wave on the same brush. There's fallout, guys. Can you see that? Maybe that was Roxy. I actually think so, because I didn't experience that with any of the other shadows. And lastly, All Star. There. So I think that is pretty much it for the eyeshadow look. Now I think I'm gonna be applying some mascara, and then you can see the entire thing when it's all pulled together. So guys, now I just applied some mascara on my upper and bottom lashes. I am not as critical. The most important thing to remember is that it's all about technique and it's all about preferences. If you're one of those people who are used to going like this in your eyeshadow palettes just to get some pigment out of the eyeshadow, then yes, then you will have a lot of fallout and it will be very powdery. However, as I've also heard with the palette, you just have to really be gentle and dab your brush into the eyeshadow, and that's exactly what I've done, and I haven't had any bad fallout whatsoever. So I'm really happy with this palette. Once again, I'm not sponsored at all, but I really think that this is a very nice look. The only shade that I tried out that I just really didn't like was the one called Destiny. To me, when you see it in the palette, it looks more of a khaki green, but when it gets on, it goes so dark and so gray, so I think it's a bit of a fail with that color, to be honest. But the rest of the colors that I tried, I really do like. I wish that Cube would have been a bit more pigmented in my mind, because I thought that was going to be like a very intense highlight color, but it's not, unfortunately. But I feel like that I tried most of the shadows, and most of them I really do like, as I said. So I would recommend this palette. Once again, as I said, it is all about which technique that you use to apply it, and it's all about your ways of doing it, and also which brushes that you use. But that was actually my review and kind of like first impression on the Anastasia Subculture Palette. And now, yes, I did expose the palette. Is it as horrible as people have said? No, it is not. I totally do not agree on that at all. However, I did realize that the palette, in my mind at least, works so much better on the unprimed eye than on the primed eye. So if you're gonna be using this palette, I would actually suggest you not to use as thick a primer or a primer at all. But that was all for this video, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed it and found it useful and helpful. If you've been thinking about buying the palette, and if you've been seeing all the different reviews and you've just been like, crazy! If If you enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a huge thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Remember, I love you all to the moon and back and everywhere else. Mwah!